Coming up on Tech News Today, hot new cameras from Canon and Olympus and more from Photokina. Sarah's going to tell you all about those. Also, Samsung leaks a new phone release, and Yahoo has something against RIM. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, September 17th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by GoToAssist by Citrix. Take control of your IT world from one simple cloud-based platform. Provide live or unattended support to all your users from anywhere. Sign up for your 30-day free trial today. Visit GoToAssist.com and use promo code TNT. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your iPhone, iPad, MacBook, or Android smartphones. Find out what your gadget is worth and get cash to upgrade to the latest iPhone at Gazelle.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show we keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech world, starting each time with the top 10 stories of the day in the news feed. Apple has a new iPhone out you may have heard of, and it went up for pre-order on Friday. And Monday, as usual in these cases, Apple began announcing new sales records. Apple claims it took over 2 million pre-orders for the iPhone 5 in the first 24 hours, doubling the amount of pre-orders for the iPhone 4S in the same period last year. While demand is outpacing supply, phones will still be available in stores at 8 a.m., Friday, September 21st in the U.S., Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Hong Kong, Japan, Singapore, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Lots of new cameras being announced at Photokina, taking place all week in Cologne, Germany. Canon 6D 24.3 megapixel full frame DSLR will run you $2,100, about the same price as Nikon's D600, which was announced last week. The Fujifilm XF will run you $500. It's similar to Fuji's X10, but without an optical viewfinder, and it's a little bit less money. But that's not all. Olympus has got a couple high-end digicams, new lenses. Pentox has a pair of DSLRs as well. Pardon me. It's been a long weekend. Panasonic's got announcements too. We're going to run through some of those tasty details later on in the show.
An unnamed Samsung executive told the Korea Times that the company will introduce a 5-inch Galaxy S4 in February at Mobile World Congress, and it will launch a month later. The S4 would run Jelly Bean, have LTE, and a quad-core Exynos processor. Samsung would not comment when contacted by other news outlets, however.
That's so sad that guy doesn't have a name.
Yeah, somebody should name him.
As Google begins to charge more for access to its Maps API, more big companies are venturing out on their own. Amazon is the latest, developing Amazon Maps API, providing interactive maps and customized overlays, as well as working with Google's existing location-based API. Devs can apply for beta access at AmazonAppStoreDev.com.
Box, the cloud storage company that serves companies including LinkedIn, McAfee, and DirecTV, launched a service today designed to make file transfers from the cloud up to 10 times faster. The Box service lets businesses and individual consumers store their files in the cloud, a lot like competitors like Dropbox, Google Drive. But Box says its new feature puts it ahead of other cloud offerings, and in fact, Box says they have the fastest cloud product on the market.
The slow-moving clouds, they stink. Music tagging apps Shazam just learned a new trick. Starting today, Shazam will be able to tag any TV show to find out information about who is acting on screen, trivia, and latest tweets about the show. The new function took Shazam 8 months to put together. The company also announced that it now has 250 million users.
2 new Fitbits got announced today. Who likes the Fitbits? Huh? Fitbit One and the Fitbit Zip. Both models have Bluetooth for wireless syncing, tracking steps, calories burned, total distance. The Fitbit One adds sleep tracking, a silent alarm, it vibrates to wake you up, and stairs climbed. Fitbit Zip is available now for $59.95 with a replaceable battery, like one of those little watch batteries, and the Fitbit One will be available soon at $99.95 with a rechargeable battery.
Yahoo CEO Marissa Mayer has sent her 12,000 employees an email, and everybody gets a brand new car, smartphone, a new smartphone, not a car, unless they want a BlackBerry. Now you might say, why is that? Because, quote, ideally, we'd like our employees to have devices similar to our users so we can think and work as the majority of our users do. Meyer wrote in a memo obtained by Business Insider. Sorry, RIM. Employees can choose an iPhone 5, a variety of Android phones, the Samsung Galaxy S3, the HTC One X, or the HTC Evo 4G LTE, or the Nokia Lumia 920.
Would have been cool if she just stuck smartphones under everybody's seats and then just sent out an email. Look under your seat. You got a new smartphone.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
Apple won another round against Samsung, this time in the U.S. International Trade Commission. ITC Judge James Gildia said in a notice posted today on the agency's website that Apple did not violate any of 4 Samsung patents at issue in this case. The judge's findings are subject to review by the full commission.
New information about the Flame malware has surfaced. It looks like the operation of Flame began as early as December 2006, 6 years before it was discovered. It managed to steal 5.5 gigabytes of data in under a week. Also, the authors of Flame apparently left information about themselves, including their nicknames, on 2 command and controlled servers. Flame is believed to be the product of the United States and Israel, and it targeted machines in the Middle East.
All right, let's take a quick break. Thank our sponsor, GoToAssist by Citrix. If you're in IT and you need a little help managing things, this is the help you're looking for. It's challenging enough when your team's working in the same office, but nobody works in the same office anymore. People are all over the place. They work remotely, they're traveling, they're on business. That's why you need GoToAssist by Citrix. You can take control of your entire IT world from one simple cloud-based platform. Here's how it works. GoToAssist, you keep all your systems up and running while keeping all of your users supported, providing live or unattended support from anywhere, even from your iPad. So you're able to log into all those computers using GoToAssist from lots of different ways. With GoToAssist monitoring, you actually get customizable dashboards displaying performance of all your networks, your servers, and desktops. And this is the big one. This is the one I love. Proactive alerts, allowing you to fix small issues before they become big problems. You don't have to wait for somebody to notice something. You can get in there and fix it before it's an issue, and then you look like a hero. Everybody's like, wow, we don't have any problems anymore in the network because you're in there fixing them ahead of time. GoToAssist is easy to use, sets up in just minutes, and it's from Citrix, a trusted leader in IT. We have it here, and it makes life a lot easier for people. You don't even have to roll out of bed to reboot a server. You can just go and fix feeds, all kinds of things from wherever you are. So sign up for your special 30-day free trial today. Visit GoToAssist.com. That's GoToAssist.com. Click on the Try It Free button and use the promo code TNT. That's GoToAssist.com, promo code TNT. And we thank them for their support of Tech News Today. We also have a big thanks whenever we have an Australian on the show, because at the time we record, it's the middle of the night for them. And Raj Deut, writer, contributor for Mac Talk and Macworld Australia, joining us this morning. Thank you. Thank you for staying up, man.
That's all right. Thanks very much for having me. I'm actually coming to you from Tuesday, so I'll be talking about the futures news.
Excellent. Excellent. That's another great benefit of having Australians
Then
on.
our next show is just done.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Two for one.
Pretty
Take
much.
tomorrow off.
Nice and easy.
Photokina going on over in Germany right now, and a bunch of camera announcements today. Sarah, what do we got?
Yeah, a ton of stuff. In fact, the conference, the exhibition doesn't officially start until tomorrow. It runs through the 23rd. But all the big guys like to announce their cameras a little bit early to get the momentum going, and pretty much everybody's got stuff to show. Canon is probably the biggest story. They've announced the EOS 6D. This is, I guess you could say, the successor to the 5D Mark II, although the 5D Mark III is technically a more souped-up version. So the 6D is a full-frame camera, has built-in Wi-Fi and GPS. No, that's new. Neither of the Mark IIs had that. Mark II or Mark III, rather. Has a brand new sensor. It's slightly more expensive than the Mark II, which got nicely discounted when the Mark III came out. So you're looking at about $2,100. And last week, Nikon unveiled the D600. You know, Canon and Nikon, they're always sort of doing the back and forth. And they priced that body only at $2,100 as well. So they're at least priced very competitively with each other. The D600 is a 24.3 megapixel, shoots 5.5 frames per second, takes full HD videos. So again, 6D and D600 very much in line with each other. Canon also improved their very popular PowerShot line. The S100 has become the S110. It's getting a little bit of a boost. Also adds Wi-Fi and boost performance. You're going to see a bit of a Wi-Fi theme. Everybody wants Wi-Fi on their phones now, you know, just wireless transfer for all those photos. The G15 gets a fast 1.8 to 2.8 lens. This replaces the PowerShot G12. but it loses the flip and twist LCD, which a lot of people like. So you can see what the person on the other side can see what they're doing. So yeah, that's
Take a picture of yourself, but also
or that.
like setting it up. And
Exactly. They're just some people love that. Unfortunately, the G15 has that stripped out probably to make it smaller and more compact. From Panasonic, we've got the Lumix DMC GH3, which is sort of like a souped-up version of the GH2, if you're familiar with that. This is the new high-end mirrorless camera for Panasonic. 16 megapixels, new sensor, improved autofocus. It's better in low light. It does 6 frames per second burst rate at full res. You can get more if you downgrade the res, but 6 at full res is pretty good. And it's kind of supposed to be rugged. The body is splash and dust proof. Built-in Wi-Fi again. Then it's also got apps that you can run on Android or iOS to control the camera remotely, which is really cool. From Olympus, you've got a 60 millimeter f2.8 macro lens, which is optimized for the OMD EM5 camera. Also weather resistant, so it's designed to be taken to the tundra. Internal focus, large focus ring. That'll be about $500 when it ships in October. A variety of other lenses coming from Olympus, plus a black limited edition version of the 12 millimeter f2 lens, which a lot of people love, but was previously only available in sort of a champagne color, so almost like a light gold. That's going to ship in October, although it's going to be more expensive. The original is about $800. This black version, which I don't know, might appeal to you, is going to run you $1,100, and that's not even coming until 2013. So, or I'm sorry, there's a different lens that's coming in 2013, which is a 17 millimeter f1.8 lens, which has a similar design to the current 12 millimeter. So, I'm seeing certainly a shift to cameras that have Wi-Fi built in. In fact, to the point where you read all these stories of who's announcing what. And reporters are quick to say, no, everything's great about this new camera, but no Wi-Fi. Whereas
it's become the left-out feature.
It's become the thing of, there isn't Wi-Fi, even though many of us have never had Wi-Fi on our cameras up until this point.
Kodak was pushing the fact that they had Wi-Fi in their cameras 5 years ago at CES.
I do.
And it just never caught. And it's all about timing, you know?
Yeah, I was thinking
Wi-Fi is an interesting one. I mean, I'm a fairly big camera buff, and the 6D is a camera that I've sort of been waiting for as a step from my 7D for a while now. But now that it's come out, I don't think I actually want it, but that's another story. But when you're shooting in RAW, unless you're in a studio situation, Wi-Fi is pretty useless on a DSLR. You don't want to sit there and wait for the transfer, especially if you've got 200 photos that you've taken whilst you're out on holiday or something like that. It's not something that you want to sit there. You may as well just plug a cable in. It's going to be sitting next to your computer for 20 minutes on Wi-Fi anyway. So I don't really, there's the iFi cards, the SD cards, which had Wi-Fi that you could get if you needed it, that sort of thing. It's a nice sort of feature, but it's not the GPS inclusion in the 6D is more of an interest to me personally. But there's other areas of this new 6D which are kind of letting it down, that doesn't make it attractive. The lack of, I think they've taken off the joystick to lighten it up a little for menu navigation. I think I read that on DP Review just earlier. So it's sort of give and take. And you can also buy a GPS edition for the 5D Mark II now, which runs you about $250 US. So I'm more inclined to go with a discounted 5D Mark II, which is slightly less, but that's my opinion. Wi-Fi isn't a be-all and end-all. Maybe on the Micro Four Thirds and the mirrorless stuff, but on the SLR, it doesn't really bother me.
I'm kind of curious how the UIs are going to be on this. I mean, if you have Wi-Fi in a device, I guess the idea is that you want to either share things or be able to transfer your files. But I mean, we've seen a couple of cameras move on to Android as an operating system. I'm just really curious of how easy is it going to be to just use the Wi-Fi on a device like this, especially what Raj is saying. You're talking about monstrously large files, so it's not as simple as taking a little quick picture with your phone. This is going to be a very large file, unless it maybe uploads like a JPEG version of the raw image.
It's probably better for large data dumps. You've been out shooting all day. You've got a ton of stuff on your camera. You leave it. You say Wi-Fi engage, and you come back a little bit later because it's gonna be slower than some of the other methods that you have to transfer all the photos off of your camera. I can't imagine that it's going to be a lot of, ooh, the Wi-Fi setup is so nice here. I'll selectively share this with my friend and email this photo. It's probably more, it's an easy wireless way to
convenience thing.
Yeah.
Maybe if the Panasonic and the Olympus, for example, uploaded to Flickr directly, like you came home, you were out with your friends all day, and it had the application built in that it just sent them straight off to the cloud to share them, as well as do a data transfer to your computer as well, so you have a backup. But you also need the other end to support it. Like iPhoto doesn't support a Wi-Fi transfer at all, does it at the moment? I don't think so.
How do you put in your WEP or WPA code in this thing? That's the other thing I'm kind of curious about. I mean, Wi-Fi Direct would be a great use for something like this, where you can have this connection directly between two devices. But if you're talking about putting it on your home network, that to me seems like a nightmare, now that I'm thinking about it. Unless they have some kind of innovative, you could use a touchscreen keyboard or something, but
control it with your Android app, at least in one of the cases.
But how do you get them on the same network to do that?
Oh, that's right. I'm putting the chicken before the egg, or vice versa, something. You need chickens and eggs at the same time.
That's exactly right. That's what the press release said too. Chickens and eggs.
That's all I know about cameras right there. Chicken and eggs. Let's move on to Samsung maybe leaking out a new Samsung Galaxy S, the Samsung Galaxy S4.
Yeah, some executive talking to the Korea Times apparently who Samsung doesn't know about, because Samsung did not confirm this, eventually saying that they don't talk about rumors. But Samsung, an executive talking to Korea Times said that the S4 is coming in February, and it's going to be out in March. It should have LTE. So the S3 has LTE as well. Quad-core Exynos instead of using a TI, I believe. The latest version of Android with 4.1 and a 5-inch screen that might use Samsung's flexible technology. So it might be might be a curved device. The S3 just came out in May, and it was at its own event, not Mobile World Congress. Samsung wouldn't comment, like I said. Do you think that Samsung would speed up its upgrade cycle it's usually every year? And would they bother going into this conference instead of having their own press event that lasts hours and hours?
Yeah, I think they could. I'm not saying that they will necessarily. I'm not talking about the veracity of this particular rumor, but the idea of Samsung saying, yeah, you know, we do want to take advantage of the Mobile World Congress. We didn't see as much of a splash out of holding the event on our own. Let's get people behind the Samsung Galaxy S4, and let's get it out there early, because we're scrambling now because of the bad press around the patent case, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I could see a situation where they would do that. Now, I can also easily see a situation where they say, no, we're going to stick to having our own announcement, because there's a lot of advantages to that. Raj, do you see Samsung deciding to use Barcelona as their platform?
Well, Barcelona is an interesting location, I suppose. I don't know what the market penetration is over in Europe and whether that leads any, gives them an advantage over there. But sure, why not? I mean, they've got the iPhone 5. They've got this marketing campaign out at the moment saying, it doesn't take a genius to come up with what Apple apparently has over the S3. So why not? Get it out there earlier, get some of this bad press off of their back. And I mean, they already have a product that is still better than the iPhone 5 in a couple of ways, some would argue. So why not get something even better out completely? But
if there's already a phone that has been received so well, that is selling well, that people like once they've had it for a while, what's the rush?
It's only 3 months, though. It's only a quarter. And maybe Samsung has just got it ready, and they're like, you know what, the faster we get out there, the more phones we sell, because the older a phone gets, the fewer they sell. So let's trump out.
Momentum. And they're getting past the holiday break as well.
That's true.
Getting all the sales from the holidays, surely.
What about the fact that it might use a 5-inch screen? I mean, Samsung's already pushing it with 4.8 on the S3.
Yeah, it keeps going up and up.
Yeah, can it go to 5 inches and that still be a pocketable device? I mean, for Samsung's flagship, I'm not talking about the Note and everything, but this is their flagship phone. This is their super phone. Would they make that switch to bump it up even further to 5?
Maybe. That's a good way to say it's different.
Well, and that really depends on,
not sure it's a good idea.
Motorola increased the screen size of the Razr M, but it didn't increase the body size. Maybe that's something they do here. Same body size, larger screen.
Just make it rollable so people can still
there we go.
As long as it doesn't get wider.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's hard enough to hold an S3 as it is.
Maybe it'll be really thin, really skinny.
It's 5 inches by 1 inch.
Pen size. Let's talk about Marissa Mayer giving a bunch of phones to her employees. We mentioned the whole list up there: Samsung Galaxy S3, HTC One X, HTC Evo 4G, LTE, and the Nokia Lumia 920. Now, obviously, what we're seeing here, Apple, Android, and Windows Phone. In the memo that was sent out to everyone, first of all, they called it Yahoo Smartphones Smart Fun. That's the project where you get a free phone from your employer. But they also made specific mention that they were discontinuing support of BlackBerry devices. Now, one thing that's interesting, it's only the U.S. employees right now who can take advantage of this program in Yahoo and get the free phones. But they said they are discontinuing BlackBerry support across 22 countries that Yahoo has offices in. And they said, quote, "We'd like our employees to have devices similar to our users so we can think and work as the majority of our users do." Two things occurred to me when I saw this story. One is the hot trend is bring your own device, where you say, oh, well, you know, we'll cover the expense. You go out and get whatever you want. So Yahoo is not going that way. They're sort of saying we're gonna provide a list that you can choose from.
They're all
and
high-end
we'll pay
phones.
For it. Yeah, and
but
they
it's
are.
not truly your choice.
Right. You can't go choose a new BlackBerry OS 10 model when it comes out after the first of the year. You have to get one of these. So is that backwards for Yahoo? And could things get any worse for BlackBerry? I mean, granted, their market share has declined to a point where if you're picking the top 3 platforms, you're probably picking these 3 platforms, especially if you consider the Arrow, right? These are platforms that are growing, whereas BlackBerry OS is declining.
I wonder if enough Yahoo employees either were using BlackBerries or not using smartphones to the point where Meyer says, I'd like everybody to upgrade, feel like everybody's using the best modern versions of phones that are available now. But if we really let everybody get what they want, there might be a little bit too much support to contend with. So here you got 5 choices. These are all very good phones. They do different things. You've got operating systems to choose from. Again, RIM is left out of this. But if they're trying to transition from RIM in the first place, maybe offering limited choice makes more sense.
Well, and BlackBerry 7 right now is a dead end. So if you have the developers playing around with these phones and like, oh, I have this really great application for BlackBerry, it's like, but that's not going to be the future. The new version of BlackBerry 10 is supposed to be the rest of RIM's future. So if you're going to be giving everybody at Yahoo a phone, and they're probably going to be playing around with the idea of how does Yahoo interact with this device? How can we optimize it? To optimize it on a dead-end platform currently, it seems like a really bad idea. But iOS is going to be stable. Android's going to be around for a very long time. The fact that going to Windows Phone, it's up and coming, but it looks like that's what Windows Phone 8 is where it's at finally. So if they're giving these Windows Phone 7.8 devices, that'd be kind of silly. But this idea that these are the devices that will be stable for a long time, but BlackBerry 7 is, well, it's going to die.
I see a few comments in the chat room that I think may be a little confused. Yahoo is not saying you can't use a BlackBerry to access any of their services, Yahoo Mail or anything like that. They're saying our employees, we're going to buy our employees phones and then pay for the bill that they have to get service, right? So it's a Yahoo employee perk. They're just not going to do it for RIM devices. Raj, is that surprising at all, though?
Not really. I have a soft spot for RIM. I used to live in Canada for a while, so you know, poor old RIM. But they're just behind the curve. No one likes the phones, to be honest. The interfaces and everything. Maybe that'll change with the new OS. But I think Sarah hit it on the head. It's a matter of support for internal for Yahoo. I mean, you know, you're covering your bases with you know, Android, iOS, and Windows Phone. You know, those are going to be around for a long time. It saves you having to deal with a whole plethora of devices in iOS across, you know, OS 7, BlackBerry OS 7, and the new 110. So, and maybe they've got an agreement. I don't know. I don't know for sure how it works in the US, but if they've got an agreement with the manufacturer, maybe RIM just didn't come to the party this time as well. So I honestly don't know, but that could be another reason behind it.
Yeah, I remember when I worked at CNET a few years ago, you had to get T-Mobile service, and you had to choose from 2 or 3 phones, a couple of which were BlackBerries at the time, because that was the deal they had, right? They had a discount that they got, and it limited the support cost because they knew exactly what they were going to support. I wonder if another support cost here is BlackBerry Enterprise Server, BlackBerry Messenger, just saying, you know what, we're not going to have to provide support for that. That might save Yahoo a little bit of money there too as well. I don't know. Let's take a quick break and thank our other sponsor for today's show, Gazelle. If you're probably going to buy your own phone, if you're not a Yahoo employee, then you might need a little cash to raise to do that. You want that new iPhone, you want one of those HTC, Samsung, or Nokia Lumia phones. Before you get the new one, make sure you sell your old one. And I'm not saying sell the old one and go without a phone for a while. What Gazelle does is makes it simple, easy, and really nice to sell your phone. You go to Gazelle.com. You type in what phone you're getting rid of, or maybe it's a laptop that you're getting rid of or a tablet, and then you lock in that quote for 30 days. So you hold on to the phone until you get the new phone. And then once you got the new phone, you're up and running, then you can send Gazelle your old phone. They let you print out a shipping label. They pay for the shipping. Sometimes they'll even send you a box. I got a box sitting at home right now waiting for my iPhone to go in there before my new phone arrives. And they pay you cash money. You can get a check. You can get PayPal. Or a 5% bonus when you choose an Amazon gift certificate. Free shipping, fast processing. Sell your old iPhone and get the new one, or get any phone you want. It's your cash. Do whatever you want with it. What's your iPhone worth, though? Take a minute. Go to Gazelle.com to find out. Sell your used iPhone today at Gazelle.com. And we thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Got a few more stories to discuss today. We mentioned in the news fuse about Amazon getting into the Map API business. Google also losing another partner.
Yeah, it turns out in Russia, Apple is going to begin using the Russian search engine Yandex to power maps in iOS 6. This is already part of the Gold Master version of iOS 6, which is available to developers and will be available to Russian users on September 19th when iOS 6 rolls out. Yandex isn't commenting, but TechCrunch says not only is this happening, but we have sources that say Yandex and Apple are working on even a bigger deal. Yandex would become the default search on the mobile version of Safari, so no more Google for that either. The way it'll work is Yandex's mapping API works for users in Russia, as well as people using Apple Maps elsewhere to look up mapping information about Russia. And how it works is you look up something using Apple's map service. Yandex's GeoSearch API powers that search. Again, this is Russia only, but very large user base, providing information about restaurants and shops and certain streets and what's here and there. If a user wants more detail on something that they're interested in, there's a little Yandex button at the bottom of that listing. If you click that, then you get taken to the Yandex.map app. If you don't have that app, then it'll bump you into Apple's App Store in order to download it. So certainly some prominent branding for Yandex here in Russian search. And it's interesting because this seems good for Apple because Yandex is extremely strong. It's a very strong regional brand for the Russian market. But I thought Apple had their own
mapping thing. Why aren't they using their own thing?
Well, they are apparently realizing if we've got a particular service in a region that a lot of people are already using and it's very strong and there's good brand recognition, it makes sense for us to make iOS 6 different in particular markets. So yeah, we've got our OpenStreetMaps version of it that we'll be using here. You know, once iOS 6 is live, that's what we'll load up on our phones when we try to map something. But over in Russia, Yandex actually has better offerings because they've got all this built in. Here's a little bit more context about the area you're looking at in Moscow, for example. So Apple sort of says, it's actually better for us to partner with you rather than try to replicate what you've already done well and take market share from you. Now, there are rumors that there is a somewhat similar search partnership with Baidu in China for iOS 6, which is, again, that's a different market, but also very strong brand recognition and a lot of user support there. And it's good for Yandex because as far as Yandex competing with Google, that's exactly what they do. Yandex has over 60% of all searches in Russia. That was numbers from last quarter, but that's actually down from previous years because Google has been gaining in market share. It accounts for about 22% of current searches. So Yandex and Apple teaming up against Google, they both are stronger together.
Because you can make the same argument here in the U.S. that Google has a strong mapping system, so why not stay partners with Google? But there's obviously a little more to that story.
Yeah,
than there is with Yandex
it is personal.
and Baidu. It almost seems like it's not just business.
It's good for Yandex and it's good for the user. If you're a Russian user, I just pulled out my phone then and quickly searched for the Kremlin in Russia and found a shoe store near it. And that came up with Yandex. But if they're providing the better service for the local content, then why wouldn't you use them? I mean, for the end user, that's the better result, I would have thought. And if that means going away from Google in that region, then Apple are doing the right thing from the end user point of view, or from my point of view.
Yeah, that, and you have to differentiate the iPhone against every Android phone. Obviously, it's got Google built in or baked in. So if you're going to have your own device and it has pretty much the same services, it just seems like, oh, it's just another phone. But if this is partnering up with Yandex and Baidu and the iPhone now makes more sense to the consumer, going, oh yeah, I know those brands. That's the right choice for me, instead of going Google everything, because it's just further and further separating Apple from Google. All those apps are gone now. It seems like they've just been annoyed with Google enough that they want to make sure that their phones don't have any Google branding at all anymore.
Seems kind of un-Apple-like to have different services, but maybe not because it's regional. It's not like you get a different service if you're in Russia. If you buy a different kind of iPhone, it's
sort of like there's an extra layer on top of maps that you will see in Russia, or searching for Russia-based map information. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, if it looked wildly different, all the colors were strange, and you were confused, that seems like a bad idea. But again, Apple doesn't really work that way.
It's sort of behind the scenes. You're going to see the map icon the way you've always seen the map icon. It's just going to be powered by Yandex.
Right.
That's what you're saying. All right. Let's talk about Shazam getting into the TV business. Last week we were talking about Spotify getting into the TV business. Spotify, a music service. Now we're talking about Shazam, a music recognition app that's actually been around since iPhone got apps. Like, this is one of the first apps I ever put on an iPhone when the App Store launched. And now they're getting into TV.
Yeah, so what it does is there's no actual upgrade to the application, as far as I know. It's just something that's being done on the back end. So when you launch Shazam, it can listen to a television show, and it's supposed to be able to tell you who's in that show, trivia, celebrity buzz, all kinds of tweets about the show. It's going to preload to tweet with the correct hashtag, this kind of thing. It's called Shazam for TV. Very exciting feature. I couldn't get it to work at all when I was using Hulu. Like, I tried New Girl, Family Guy, The Office, so somewhat popular shows.
This morning I
tried it. I could not get it to work. Tried it with the movie. I couldn't get it to work. The Mashable article, they said they got it working fine, so maybe it's just me. I couldn't get it. But
what device were you using to watch Hulu?
I was using my computer with the speakers turned up, and I was using my iPad to
big old
to
speakers, right?
Yes.
Not like laptop speakers.
I was watching. Yeah, it was actually. You could see the Shazam thing pulsing.
Shazam, although, is known to be pretty good with not the best speakers, so that shouldn't be that much of an issue.
And the weird thing is, what I found was some shows have a lot of awkward silences. So when it's listening, unless you miss, it can be listening to a very long pause. Or Family Guy, in the case of Family Guy, huge, like a fight scene between a chicken. There's very little context. It's just punches.
I wonder if they're still building out the database then, because I actually used Shazam for this very thing on Being Human, the U.S. version of Being Human that was on Sci-Fi. It said, if you want more information about this episode, hold up your Shazam right now. So I did it, and it worked. But obviously that was a one-time case for promotional effort regarding a specific episode of a specific show. So for this to work, that means that they have to have all the episodes of all the shows that you might possibly hold it up to.
Roger, do you think you'll be using this? Are you going to be trying to tag your shows that way, or are you just going to hit the info button?
Probably not. I mean, in Australia, Shazam is known. I guess we have the occasional TV ad that has a little Shazam logo. I think HTC has an ad down here. But it's not by any means popular. If you're in a bar or something and you're trying to figure out the name, a song that's playing, maybe you pull out Shazam, but it doesn't work because it's too noisy. So for TV shows, I mean, it sounds like a great idea. A lot of our TV shows are a little older than what's in the US, so maybe the database will be updated by the time they actually get here. But if this was linked into one of those social TV services, I can't remember the name of one off the top of my head. I don't use it, but like one of those
Glue,
that tweet.
maybe?
Yeah. So, you know, it automatically picked up that I was watching an episode of whatever, Family Guy, and you know, checked me into that on GetGlue, or maybe that would be great. But in terms of, you know, trivia, don't really care, but that's me personally. Information about the show might be good, but it needs to work. And like Tom was saying in that episode on Sci-Fi, it had a trigger point, whereas all these other ones are sort of relying on you know, having the entire episode as a database rather than just that single point. And maybe they just haven't got that down pat yet because of, you know, things like awkward silences, like you were saying.
Yeah, Shazam makes a lot of sense for music because, I mean, it's listening to a song. There's usually not a big silent break in the middle of a song. But if you're watching Breaking Bad and there's
Unless
this...
you're John Cage, but yeah.
Well, if you're watching something like Breaking Bad, there's like, you're going to keep tapping
Everything gets identified as John Cage.
keep tapping that button.
A lot of this, though, is there is music in a variety of TV shows, especially credits. I mean, music has kind of become this thing where you're like, ooh, this is a really cool song. What is it? And, you know, you want to talk about it with your friends. So that Shazam would certainly come in handy for that. We review all sorts of these sort of second screen, check into TV show apps on iPad today, and Leo and I both sort of go, this is really convenient. It is. That's really cool. It makes it so much easier to look up stuff on a show where you go, who's that actor? What's he been in before? What is this song? I kind of like it. But that's almost the extent of my enthusiasm about that is like, I wonder who that actor is.
Yeah. None of these second screen experiences are addressing a particular need that I have.
Right.
Let's put it this way, that a need that I have that I feel is unfulfilled. I have my tablet with me all the time when I'm watching television, and I will always launch that IMDb app and look up somebody to find, like, what else has that person been on? We were watching Wallander last night, which is a UK series, and there was the guy who actually had played Master Control Program in Tron, was playing Wallander's dad, and we were like, God, we know we recognize him. Launch IMDb, find out, oh yeah, MCP from Tron, got it. But would I have launched Shazam to get me there? No. I know what I want. I want IMDb. And so I go right to IMDb and I look it up. I don't need to remember to launch something else to recognize the thing to make it easier. That may be faster in reality, but it seems more inconvenient than just going straight to the source. And the amount of things that I need to, I mean, Wikipedia and IMDb are about the only things that I use when watching TV to supplement my viewing. I don't really see a desperate need to have something else.
Yeah, it's ultra convenience that I feel would be helpful once in a while if I even remember that it exists.
Yeah, if IMDb,
just being honest.
TM204 says IMDb had this function built in, that'd be kind of cool. If it just automatically was listening and said, oh, we hear you're watching this episode of Wallander, here you go, and took me right to that page, that'd be convenient.
Well, Shazam is using information from IMDb, so but the thing is, again, you have to remember
you have to watch
do
Shazam and then go to
right.
it. It
seems
kind of to care enough to be like, oh, you know what would be really cool? Let's open Shazam, watch this.
Yeah.
You have to remember, and it has to work. That's the big thing. They need to, if they want to change consumers' mindset, then it needs to work straight off the bat. And
I find it interesting that Mashable says it worked for television, and you said it didn't work for Hulu. There's maybe some. I
wonder if because in the example for in the Mashable they were talking about watching Friends. I wonder if it was synced up with some kind of guide data or like what was on what's coming up right now in your location, because Shazam does ask for your location. Like, okay, maybe it's trying to figure out exactly what's going on there, figure out what time it is. Oh, this is probably what you're watching. But on demand, I don't know if it worked. I couldn't get it to work.
Let's finish up with a Gartner study predicting that by 2014, 10 to 15% of social media reviews and other engagement like that, likes and shares and such, will be paid for by the company being endorsed. 10 to 15%. Now, a lot of you I know, your first reaction is like, I never trust those things anyway. It's all paid for. Right now, the current estimate is that 1 to 4% are actually paid for. So it's easier to get a handle on, I'm suspicious of that one. I think that might be a little astroturfing there. But 10 to 15% starts to get harder to avoid. There are lots of companies out there. TechCrunch had a good article. Adly, Izia, paid per tweet, that all pay different types of people to promote their things. Some pay celebrities, some just pay what they call influencers, people with large followings on the social networks, and others are just kind of blanket like, hey, you post a link, we'll give you a little money, like a referral system. And they were speculating in the study and in the TechCrunch article that the FTC may get dragged into this in the next couple of years. In 2009, the FTC actually ruled that positive reviews posted without full disclosure of compensation can be prosecuted as a case of false or deceptive advertising. So do we think this is? Do you think Gartner's right? How are we going to deal with all of these astroturfers out there?
I think it's gonna be the same way we deal with Amazon reviews like that, where you look at all the 5-star things and then 1-star ones, you kind of disregard them, try to look in the middle. It just seems like with this kind of situation where you're like, well, I've never heard of this brand. Why do they have like 7 million likes? You might get very curious. I think it's gonna lead to a lot more being more skeptical when you see these things right off the bat, and you're gonna be looking at a lot of likes differently, I guess.
But what if they're really clever about it and they have reviews that are like, it's only 4 stars, and they say stuff that seems plausible, and yet they're paid for?
I read a lot of reviews just because I'm sort of fascinated by the reviews that seem really legit, but something is just a little off. And you realize this is a carefully constructed fake review designed to say, hey, the product isn't perfect, but it's so much better than everything else on the market, you know? And you can kind of... Maybe I'm duped sometimes, but I think I'm pretty good at being able to tell reality from fiction, and this applies to Yelp and I mean all sorts of stuff. But yeah, this is wrong. This shouldn't be allowed. As far as celebrities tweeting, hey, this is the best curling iron I've ever used, without disclosing why they're tweeting that or posting it on their Facebook page or whatever. That's a little bit more of a gray area. I mean, I think they should be disclosing it too. But celebrities have been participating in stuff because they're getting paid for advertising for a long time.
But it's
I guess the
obvious
commercial is just
exactly. You know they're getting paid when they come on that commercial in between.
Maybe it just turns into a thing where you have to assume that they're getting paid unless they say disclosure, nobody paid me for this.
And then do we need the US FTC and like agencies in other countries to step in and make it a requirement to disclose?
Not if you assume that they're just shills all the time.
But what about people who aren't celebrities? Raj, what do you think of this?
It's a tough one. I mean, unlike Amazon, where you have that, you can disregard 1 and 5 stars. Facebook likes are a Facebook like; they're on or off. You unless it's a massive number and like you said, a company you've never heard of, then you obviously know that something's been paid for. But on the smaller scale, a lot of smaller Facebook pages require a certain amount before they get certain functionality. So a lot of those times when you need those 30, 40 likes to sort of get started, you going out to your friends or business associates. You're not paying for it, but you're technically artificially inflating the likes on your page just to get certain functionality. So it happens at a lower level as well as a higher level where people are paying for these ultra services that, and to be honest, 1 to 4% at the moment seems extremely low for me. I like the other skeptics, I'd be thinking it's already at 10 to 14%. Having working in the web development industry every day, so. This doesn't surprise me at all, and it's just going to get worse and worse. And maybe services like app.net, where you actually pay to become a member yourself, maybe that's a gate which may serve as a selling point for those guys to perhaps lessen the artificial inflation of numbers and brand recognition because you're paying to use their service. I don't know. Maybe that's just wishful thinking.
Well, it is sort of an arms race, and I think there will be other responses to this. Google's played around with the idea of weighting search results based on your friends and their likes. And so if you are actually directly connected to somebody, maybe their reviews will weigh more in a star rating for you. That's a way to help get rid of people that, unless all your friends are getting paid, a way to get rid of the astroturfers. And, when you were talking, Sarah, I was thinking there might be a place for an app like Utilizer. Utilizer can go and read an end-user license agreement and alert you to things. There might be a way to semantically replicate what you're doing when you read the reviews and say, oh, yeah, these are word choices that people who are paid do take more often than honest reviewers.
Flag potentially fake.
Kind of like a spam filter, like a Bayesian filter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's gonna be interesting, and it's something that's not gonna go away.
I mean, I'd love on that note some sort of filter with, hey, this person has 120,000 Twitter followers, but paid for 80,000 of those.
Yeah, right.
So just take that all into context the next time you think, wow, this is a really popular person. Maybe I should pay more attention to what they're saying.
Let's check what's on the randomizer.
Randomizer.
It's popcorn. Engadget's John Fingus reporting on the Popinator, a voice-activated popcorn launcher. Doesn't get your hands greasy. And not just that, it actually, you don't have to just guess where the popcorn's going. It uses microphones to figure out where you are.
Yes, it has an array of microphones, and that'll determine where it fires the one popcorn at you. So the weird thing is it's voice controlled. So you say pop, and then this device will fire popcorn. It doesn't make popcorn. You have to put the popcorn in. So it's got to be ready-made.
It's not a popper.
No, it's a popinator.
Right.
So it just flings it at you. I couldn't tell if this was real, but Engadget says, yes, before you ask, it looks like the real deal. It's from, I believe, Popcorn, Illinois or something. Indiana, excuse me. Mixed up my states. But I thought this was a gag, but it apparently is a real thing. Would you guys eat popcorn this way?
No.
I'd love to, but I know it would never go into action.
Who takes one kernel of popcorn at a time?
Me. I do.
This looks like a dog treat
I
system.
do so. I'm not going to stuff my face with popcorn, Tom.
You never take more than
civilized
one
person.
kernel at a time.
I eat popcorn one at a time. However,
right,
it's not
I stand
getting
corrected.
rocketed from halfway across the room, and that's just a mess.
Well, this is
You're going to get
perfect.
popcorn all
well,
over
no,
your
the
floor.
idea is that it's not a mess because your fingers don't get greasy. And it's
No,
going to accurately put it right in your mouth.
Okay.
One of
We'll
the
see.
one of the use cases.
I see it hitting my cheek quite a bit.
In the video, the guy's like, "Well, I'm playing video games. I can have my hands on the controller. I can get popcorn this way." I'm like, "Okay, you could pause, but and your hands get greasy." But I don't know. Is this an abuse? I think this is an abuse of technology at this point. This is a dog treat machine. Okay.
Abuse of technology.
Actually, it might be better as a dog treat machine or a cat treat machine.
Yeah.
Just fires.
If the dog can say pop, I think you should get a treat.
Meow, bark, pops the. Yeah. My dog hunts its own treats, but that's a whole separate story. Sarah is now going to pop these calendar items right into your brain.
Space Shuttle Endeavour is departing for its new home. It's going to the California Science Center today, and it's getting a little ride on a 747. It's going to make pit stops in Texas and then at Edwards Air Force Base in California before touching down at LAX on the 20th and going to the Science Center, where you can go see it later on. I don't think it's actually available for viewing until mid-October. Motorola and Intel are having an announcement tomorrow, the 18th. Medfield chip phones, anybody interested?
Mm-hmm.
Salesforce's Dreamforce conference also starts tomorrow, the 18th, runs through the 21st. Focus on cloud computing and the social enterprise.
And taking up all the parking spaces in downtown San Francisco.
And that also, right. The first conference to ever do such a thing.
No, I know, right? They're the only ones.
And Microsoft officials are now confirming Windows 8 and Surface RT are launching on October 25th in New York City.
Except they didn't say they have an event for the launch, but they didn't say where or when.
Just in the on the island of Manhattan.
You'll find them.
Yeah, you'll find them.
See what's incoming.
Incoming message.
Got a voicemail to 260-TNT show about the naming conventions for 4G.
Hey, Tech News Today. I was listening to your discussion about 4G versus LTE and the way consumers react to that naming convention. And I've had more than one person ask me, so what is this 4G Lite? And so in that way, it might even be a case where people are looking at it and thinking it's not as good as the 4G that's been offered, for the last few years. This is something that's kind of less good. And so, because, most people have no idea what it is. So anyway, keep up the great work. See you later. Bye.
4G Lite. I didn't even think about that. Totally. If you don't know what LTE is, which most people in the world don't, that's what they're going to think.
I have heard people call it light, but I didn't even think of it like a light beer kind of concept. But 4G Lite. So I was like, it's kind of fast. Less filling.
Wait, the 4G Lite is faster? Oh, because it's lighter, so it can go faster.
It's the champagne of 4G.
Explain it.
By the way, Endeavor postponed until tomorrow because of rain. Thank you to everybody in the chat room.
All right, good to know. Email from Renard in Chicago, who says, while NFC, near-field communication, can do more than payment, you can do much of what you may do with NFC with QR codes without installing hardware, right? For payment, I want more steps for security and to make me think twice about a purchase. That's actually one of the advantages NFC would have over a QR code is it has some amount of security built in. But I get his point, which is you can do a lot of what NFC does already without having to have NFC built in. It's just a little clunkier. NFC is pretty smooth.
There's just so many different ways to do the same thing, pretty much.
Yeah.
Got another email from Ross who says, hey guys, a few weeks ago you mentioned that Everything Everywhere will be the first network in the UK to roll out LTE service. What you may have missed and now find interesting is that the other networks in the UK are very upset about this. Why? Well, it seems Everything Everywhere have managed to sidestep a spectrum auction by reusing some spare spectrum they have as a result of the T-Mobile Orange merger. The other networks are annoyed. Don't laugh. That's how they say it in France. The other networks are annoyed as it appears Ofcom, the regulator, seems to be making only slow progress on arranging a spectrum auction. And then he points us to a BBC article that gives a little bit more detailed explanation on what exactly is going down over there.
J'accuse EE of taking all the spectrum. That's interesting. Thanks for that, Ross. What's the LTE status in Australia, Raj?
We have two carriers, Telstra and Optus. Optus have just launched the LTE service in most capital cities, but interestingly, with the new iPad, as they called it, they had to actually take the 4G labeling off of it because it wasn't considered a 4G device in Australia because it wasn't working on an LTE spectrum. So they actually got taken to court by our consumer competitor, ACCC, so it was sort of equivalent of your FTC, and had to relabel all their boxes or put a note in there saying that this isn't actually a 4G device. So we don't have the confusion that the US does, I suppose, where AT&T call the 3G plus service 4G. So it's a little easier for us to understand that 4G is, they don't even bring up the LTE really. No one understands what that is over here.
Yeah, because they didn't bankrupt 4G. They actually started with T-Mobile calling their HSPA plus 4G, and then AT&T got in on the ballgame. But the iPad here does use LTE. It just doesn't use the same band as Australia. That's what caused all that confusion.
Exactly, yeah. And Apple had to clean up that mess pretty quick.
All right, that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Thanks to folks for submitting stories in our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com, and look at that every day to help figure out what stories we're going to talk about. Appreciate all the folks in there, especially the moderators, making that useful for us to use. And thank you, Raj. Huge thanks for staying up late.
Thank you.
You are really smart at 3 in the morning. I can't imagine what you're like once you've actually had a full night's sleep.
Yes, well, I attribute that to the 2 cups of instant coffee, so thank you, Nescafe.
Excellent. Let folks know where they can find your work online.
You can find me at mactalk.com.au. There's an interesting article about my visit to the TWiT house that went up yesterday morning. So if you want to find out more about how you can get out and visit these guys in person, then by all means check that out. And you can also find my work at efront.com.au, where I work as a web developer here in Melbourne.
Awesome. Thanks, Raj, so much. It was great meeting you here at the TWiT Cottage, and the studio, and I'm glad we got you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for being great experience. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv, and you can give us a call and leave us a voicemail. Our phone number is 260-TNT-SHOW. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode. See you then.